everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this year, just like every other year, Apple has continued to update its iPhone lineup. And this time around, we have 8 different phones currently available new from Apple at their Apple Store or on apple.com. Now, they do get rid of some phones they keep, and other phones they let third-party retailers still sell, as well as the refurbished store. However, this is what Apple is currently offering new directly from them on apple.com or in the Apple Store. And so I'm going to help you decide which one would be best for you based on everything from battery life to price, the display, speakers, and more. And so the first thing is the color availability and the different phones that we have here. And before we get started, this video is sponsored by Anchor. And so on the left, we have the iPhone SE. Apple is still offering this as a low-cost option, and as you can see here, this is the product red version. So they offer this as well as a couple other colors. Next, we have the iPhone 11. Apple is still selling the iPhone 11. I have the green version here, but there's a couple different color availabilities as well. There's quite a few, so if the green doesn't work for you, there's some others as well. Also, Apple is still offering the iPhone 12 mini. So I have the green iPhone 12 mini, and there's a bunch of different colors available with that as well as the iPhone 12. So the 12 and 12 mini have the exact same color lineup, but they're just slightly different sizes. So as you can see here, this is the latest purple color that they offer as well. Apple this year has updated their lineup with the iPhone 13, and first is the iPhone 13 mini. I have it here in the black color, but again, there's a bunch of different colors as well. The same is true for the iPhone 12 and 13 series, where the 13 mini and 13 have the same color availability. This is the new blue color that they have on the 13. So those have the same color options as well. With the iPhone 13 Pro, the 13 Pro in Sierra Blue that I have here, this is the latest color, but again, they offer a few more colors as well. And what they're offering this year is similar to the others other than this color. So they have a graphite, a silver, and gold. Again, the same is true with the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. They share the same color availability. So they're exactly the same when it comes to that. And so as far as the price is concerned, there's quite a wide variety here this year, all the way from $399 with the iPhone SE second generation, all the way up to $1,599 for the 13 Pro Max, depending on the storage option you choose. The top of the line is 1 terabyte. So if you choose that option, you have a very wide array of colors available this year. So you can pick really what works best for you. Now, all of the phones are glass front and back. However, every phone left of the Pro devices is actually aluminum or aluminium when it comes to the frame. The outside edge, all the way around on all of the devices except the Pro and Pro Max, has a nice matte finish that also makes it a little bit lighter. Now, with the Pro and Pro Max devices this year, again, they're stainless steel. So you'll see it's a bit more shiny or reflective and does pick up quite a few more fingerprints on the side, but with the regular devices, it picks up the fingerprints on the back. But on the Pro and Pro Max, we have a matte finish, so it doesn't really show fingerprints at all. So you can see the construction is similar but different as far as the frames are concerned, and the weight is quite different as well. Since the stainless steel is a heavier metal, there's a difference in weight. And so you can see all of the different weights across all the devices, and if weight is a concern, you'll probably want to go with the mini devices as they are the lightest, and of course the Pro Max would be the heaviest. However, if that doesn't matter to you, there's some benefits with going to the larger devices as well. And one of those benefits is battery life. Now you can see here all of the different battery sizes from the iPhone SE all the way up to the 13 Pro Max with its huge battery that it has this year, where it goes up to about 4,352 milliamp hours, which gives a huge bump to almost any phone out there. So if we talk from the iPhone SE all the way up to the latest phones, the iPhone SE, you can expect about 4 hours of screen on time. This is with my general usage, as I've used all of these phones for some time. So about 4.5 hours of screen on time. With the iPhone 11, you're going to get more battery life as you have a larger frame, so you can expect closer to about 7 hours of screen on time. Some people manage more, some less, but this is just based off of my overall usage. With the iPhone 12 mini, that's where it's a little bit less, maybe around 5 hours of screen on time, if you're lucky, depending on how you use it. With the iPhone 12, you're going to get a little bit more, again, with that larger size. Again, 6 to 7, maybe even 8 hours of screen on time. I would say 6.5 is about right. With the 13 mini and 13, they bumped up the batteries even over the previous generation. So with the 13 mini, you can expect closer to about 6 hours of screen on time, with the 13 giving you about 6.5 to 7. But even though the 13 Pro has a smaller battery than the 13, it gets additional battery life. So between 7 and 8, typically about an hour longer battery life. However, on the 13 Pro Max, you can expect anywhere between 11 to 14 hours of screen on time, where it has amazing battery life compared to all of the rest. Because you have a huge size overall, you have more room for a larger battery. And then, of course, with the more efficient chipsets this year, they seem to actually extend that battery life even further. So if you're looking for battery life, the 13 Pro Max is the no-brainer here. However, there's some advantages to smaller phones as well. Now, all of the phones here have wireless charging. They're all Qi compatible. However, the iPhone SE and iPhone 11 do not have Apple's latest MagSafe charging capability, which means it adheres magnetically to the charger, help lining it up, being more efficient, and also helping for some better speeds. But all of them will get about 50% charge in 30 minutes if you're using the Lightning port. However, they do support fast charging via wireless, some up to 7.5 watts, MagSafe up to 15 watts. However, the minis do get a little bit slower charging speeds at about 12.5 to 13 watts or so. Now, as far as different accessories you can use, and that's where our charging partner, Anker, comes in, who's sponsored this video. And here I have the 623 magnetic wireless charger. I've shown this in a couple other videos, and it's something I really like, and you'll see it tilts here. And this is a MagSafe compatible charger. So it works on all the MagSafe devices, and if I place my phone on it, you'll see that it lights up at the bottom, letting us know that it's charging, and you have the ability to rotate the phone and maybe watch a video in landscape if you wanted to do that. So you can use your phone while it's charging here, and it gives you the availability to charge something else. So if you want to charge a pair of AirPods, you can do that. Just place them here. It will charge at 5 watts, and then you'll have 7.5 watts of charging off of the wireless charger on MagSafe, and it will just charge your device. Set it on your stand at night, maybe use it on a desk, and it's very convenient. It's nice and heavy as well, so if you want to place it down, maybe we place the charger down, want to remove it, we can just pull the phone off. Lift it at the bottom, it comes right off. So it's nice and heavy, it's very rigid, and seems to be very well made. So I highly recommend it. It's something I really like, and everyone I've shown seems to like it quite a bit. It comes in 4 different colors. It's available in Misty Blue, Interstellar Gray, Dolomite White, and Lilac Purple. And if you want to check this out, I'll link the 623 magnetic wireless charger from Anker in the description below. When it comes to the displays, there's quite a variety, from 4.7 inches all the way up to 6.7 inches, from LCD to OLED to the latest OLED that support ProMotion. So we'll talk more about that in a moment, but they all have over 300 pixels per inch and great resolutions. However, some people may feel that the iPhone 11 resolution doesn't really meet up to what Apple usually produces. However, I would disagree with that, as it has great viewing angles and it's also very color accurate. Some people may say that around the edges it's a little bit blurry, but for most people the display will be fine and it looks pretty good. And it may be a consideration for those that are bothered by PWM, or pulse width modulation. It's a way that the displays actually control brightness by flashing faster or slower depending on the brightness. And with the 13 Pro Max, this doesn't seem to be a problem anymore, as it's hard to detect under 240 frames per second slow motion, but typically this can cause problems such as eye strain, or cause people to feel nauseated, or just give them headaches overall. This happens to about 1 in 10 people, and myself included. So with some of these phones, you may see that with the 12 series devices or the non-Pro 13 devices. However, with the 13 Pro and Pro Max, it's very hard to detect and has not caused any problems whatsoever for me. The regular devices since about the iPhone 11 to 12 series have gotten better as far as them bothering my eyes or anything. I haven't had that issue for quite some time. If you're very sensitive to displays, you still may want to consider LCD. However, the 13 Pro and Pro Max seem to be quite good. And some of that has to do with ProMotion, where it can ramp the display refresh rate from 10 Hz all the way up to 120 Hz. And what that does is give you a very smooth experience. And while it's hard to show on a video like this, as you're scrolling back and forth, maybe in slow motion at 240 frames per second, it definitely makes a difference. You can see the smoothness between both of the displays here. There's a very big difference between a ProMotion and non-ProMotion display. And it's something people that are pro users of iPhones have wanted for a long time. So it's definitely one of those things that's great. Now, of course, there's the notch on the new phones and all of these phones for the most part, with the exception of the iPhone SE. The notch is actually narrowed a little bit this year with the inclusion of the new phones with the ProMotion displays or not. It has a narrower notch, but it protrudes more into the display than other years. And so on some content for different devices, such as the iPhone 13 mini and 13, it may protrude into some widescreen videos on YouTube. So if you're watching YouTube, you may see it protrude in, and that can be a bit of an annoyance as, of course, it's kind of butting into that screen. And so if you expand it all the way, it's fine. If not, well, then it's still going to show a little bit, but only on widescreen videos. Now, another advantage to these displays has to do with the cost to replace them. The cost to replace an iPhone 11 display is less than that of the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So if you have AppleCare or you don't, that may be a consideration as well. But either way, I don't think it will be a problem for many. And of course, there's different unlocking methods with these different phones as well. With the iPhone SE, of course, you have TouchID. It's the last TouchID phone that Apple currently offers. If you don't like Face ID, of course, TouchID has been around for years. It works pretty well, and most of the time it's very accurate. It just unlocks quickly and you're into your home screen. With Face ID, Apple continues to improve this year over year, and it just unlocks rapidly as you pick up your phone and swipe up. So that could be a consideration. However, most displays that we have from Apple these days, or most phones, are going to be Face ID. You'd have to go back to an iPhone 8 or 8 Plus to get Touch ID if you wanted an older, larger phone. Now, as far as the overall specs, we have the latest A15 Bionic with 6 gigs of RAM in the latest Pro devices, and most of these phones really are not going to be a problem when it comes to overall speed and daily usage. So I wanted to show you opening a game just to show you how quickly it loads or doesn't load. And so let's go ahead and go into one of those games. Let's see if I can find it here. We'll find the game, we'll open it up and see how fast we can actually play the game. So we'll get into Minecraft here, and you'll see as we open it up, it's been opened once at least on all devices and then closed. So you'll see everything's loading basically in the order that I opened it. So what we'll do is we'll go back and try and hit these as fast as we can. So we'll hit play and we'll just show you as we get through here. We'll get to where we create a world and see how fast that takes place. So we'll go back in and create. There we go. And we'll do it one more time. We have to hit this a few different times to get in. And let's see what we can do here. So we'll create new. And let's see how fast they create. Again, I have to hit proceed. And the iPhone 11 is kind of already working here. This should give you a general idea of how fast you can get in the game. The iPhone 13 is already loaded, then the 11, which seemed to take a little bit longer. So you'll see they're all loading within the general time frame of one another, except for the Pro and Pro Max devices, which is something that I've talked to others about before, where the Pro devices, sometimes with their more powerful CPUs, take a little bit longer to ramp up that CPU speed. So I think that may be a bit of a surprise to some of you that are looking to play games. They should all perform the same. Of course, you've got ProMotion on the newer ones, but that may be a little bit different with its higher resolutions and ProMotion display. So just keep that in mind, that while the specs say that the newer ones should be the fastest, not in every task, but in very intensive tasks, they can be. So the frame rates should be smooth on all of them. Now, I've loaded iMovie on every single one of these devices and installed the same video. And so I've created a new movie with a video I recorded with the iPhone some time ago. And if we go to the end, you'll see that it's 3 minutes and 46 seconds long. If we go all the way to the beginning, you'll see that it has a title on it. I've put the same title on all of them and then split it here as well. So I split the movie and it's all at the same place. And I wanted to see how fast it would take to export on the oldest to the newest device. So let's go ahead and export that. I also have a different phone here, an iPhone XR, as a stopwatch. So let's go ahead and hit done on all of these. And then we'll go ahead and share the movie and see how long it takes. And I'll try and start them as close together as I can. So we'll share them. So I've lined all of them up, ready to start, and we'll hit start and then save video. And we'll go from the oldest to the newest devices. So we should be pretty close on all of them. So I'll speed this up so you don't have to wait the entire time. And as you can see, they were all done basically at the exact same time, from the time I started them to the time I got to the end. So they're all very close, within half a second to a second of one another. So if you're exporting video, don't expect them to be really different at all. And this time around, it's basically the same on all devices with Apple's latest processors. And the processor is a little bit warm on the iPhone SE, but not hot. The iPhone 11 is a little bit warmer, I would say, than the SE. Then if we take a look at the 12 and 12 mini, again, there's a little bit of warmth as you're doing intensive processes, but not too much. Same is true of the 12. The 12 mini actually feels cooler than the 12 or 12 mini. The 13, not really much there. The 13 Pro, barely warm at all. And the 13 Pro Max, the same. There's barely any warmth. So the latest processors definitely stay cooler than the previous generation. The front cameras on all of these are quite good, with the exception of maybe the iPhone SE. The iPhone SE is a 7 megapixel camera that can record up to 1080p at 30 frames per second. However, with the iPhone 11 to the latest phones, they're all 12 megapixel cameras that can record 4K and 4K 60. However, if you have the latest generation phones, so the 12 mini and 12, they can record 4K 30 HDR, but you get up to 4K 60 HDR with any of the 13 model phones. So I wanted to show you a comparison of the front-facing video of the cameras, but I'm not going to include all of them as most of them are very similar. So I'll include one from the 13 series since they're all the same, one from the 12 series, as well as the 11 and SE. So take a listen and let me know what you think below. This is the forward-facing camera from the iPhone SE, the iPhone 11, the iPhone 12 series, iPhone 13 series, and iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. And as you can hear, the microphones are a little bit different on the Pro series than the 13 series devices, as well as the iPhone 12 series, 11 series, and SE. Let me know which one looks best and sounds best to you in the comments below. The rear cameras on all of the devices are 12 megapixels. From every single lens that looks different here, they're all 12 megapixels. The iPhone SE has a 12 megapixel camera that can record 4K 60 and has optical image stabilization. With the iPhone 11, again 4K 60 at 12 megapixels, but instead we have two lenses, one that's ultra wide and one that's just a normal wide. With the iPhone 12 and 12 mini, again 12 megapixels, but we have wide and ultra wide with the option to record 4K HDR video. The 13 and 13 mini, again, the same exact thing, 4K HDR, but this time at 60 frames per second. You also have cinematic mode and photographic styles. So that's something you don't get on the other phones. So if we go into the camera app, into photo, if we scroll down here a little bit, we have cinematic mode. And this allows us to record ourselves in 1080p HDR, and if you're looking at the camera and then look away, it will change the focus automatically using the neural engine to understand what you're looking at. So that's something you get with the 13 series phones, all of them, that you don't get elsewhere. With the photo modes, if you tap on the options for extra options, you have the option for photographic styles. So you have standard, and then you can change it and leave it to whatever there is. So rich contrast, vibrant, warm, vibrant, cool, or you can change it with the warmth and tone to whatever you like. So if you like a photo a little bit more warm, or maybe you want the tone a little bit different, as you can see here, you can change that to reflect whatever you prefer. That's on just the 13 series phones. Now with the 13 Pro and the 13 Pro Max, you also gain the option of ProRes video. So if we go over to photos, we have not only the same modes we had before, but we also have raw photo capability, as well as ProRes for video. So under video, you have ProRes, which takes a lot of space, but does produce some really nice images. So I wanted to show you the ProRes, and maybe you noticed or maybe you didn't, but with the front-facing camera comparison, I was using ProRes out of the forward-facing cameras as well, which you get on the Pro models. So you may have noticed a difference, and if you did, that's why. Now also on the 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, you have an additional lens, which is telephoto. This may or may not make a difference for some people. And then additionally, you have a LiDAR sensor to help with autofocus and augmented reality application. So you have that and a macro mode using the ultra wide. So you get a lot of extra features with the cameras on the Pro devices. So I thought I'd share a comparison of that as well, and wanted to see what you thought between all of these devices. Speakers on the phone tend to get better from left to right here. With the iPhone SE, it's the older style speakers. You have less room since the phone is thinner and smaller, and Apple has generally improved them when going from left to right. As we move to the 11, they get a little bit better. With the 12, they're louder and a little better separation. But this time around with the 13 and the design of where the speaker is at the top of the notch, as opposed to what we have with the 12 series phone in the middle of the notch, it seems to make a better sound when you're watching video with better separation. So you have a better stereo sound, and they tend to be a few decibels louder than the 12 series. So the 13, they've improved quite a bit with the speakers. I tend to think they're a little bit clearer as well, but it just depends on who you ask. Overall, though, they're so similar to the 12 series, I wouldn't upgrade for speakers alone, but they're a big improvement over the 11 or SE. When it comes to reception, there's a difference in modems that we need to talk about first. With the iPhone SE and iPhone 11, those both have Intel modems. Apple struggled for a while with Intel modems to make them really have good reception and hold on to calls in general. They'll work just fine, but there's definitely a difference between them and all of the phones here, the 12 and 13 series phones that actually have Qualcomm modems. So we have 4G in the iPhone SE and iPhone 11, but from the iPhone 12 mini all the way over to the 13 Pro, we have Qualcomm with 5G. Not just 5G, but 5G millimeter wave. And you can tell that with the antenna. Depends where you live around the world, whether or not it will have millimeter wave. But if we look on the side, if you have this antenna, you have millimeter wave. 5G, for me personally, is not a reason to just run out and upgrade your phone. It's good in most areas, but there has been some odd issues with it, as well as it using a little bit more power. As the technology progresses, you're going to see better power consumption like we did with earlier iPhones when they switched to 4G. So 5G will get better and better over time as far as power consumption, and then generally they'll improve and have the same sort of battery usage as 4G. But right now, I would say give it another year if you're waiting to upgrade. However, if you want 5G, it seems to be widely available in the United States. The IP rating of the phones is different as well. With the iPhone SE, we have IP67 up to 1 meter for 30 minutes, and the iPhone 11 is similar, IP68 though, up to 2 meters at 30 minutes. With the iPhone 12 through the 13 Pro Max, we have IP68 6 meters for up to 30 minutes. So there's better water resistance in the 12 and newer phones. However, I would not put them underwater without putting on a waterproof case, as Apple will not cover that water damage without a deductible, or if you don't have Apple Care, they won't cover it altogether. So just be aware of that and make sure you put a case on it if you're planning to submerge it for any period of time. iOS updates should be available for at least a few more years on the iPhone SE and 11. So if you're concerned about getting the latest updates, Apple has typically supported their phones for 5 to 6 years. So I would expect on the latest phones, maybe iOS 20, 21, with older phones such as the 11 or SE, maybe iOS 17 or 18. Apple has never really specified how long they're going to support them until they're not going to support them any longer. But typically, at least 5 years, and they've been doing that since the introduction of iOS. So I would expect at least a few more years support for both of those phones, and at least 5 to 6 years for the latest phones. So you'll get updates for years and years. Now, as far as which one you should choose, that really depends on, well, your budget and what you value most. If OLED displays seem to hurt your eyes or bother your eyes, maybe make you feel nauseated or get a headache, well then go for the SE or 11. You'll be happy with those. They won't bother your eyes that way. However, the latest iPhones don't seem to have that issue as well. If you don't have a budget at all, you have an unlimited budget, well, obviously go for the most expensive, 13 Pro Max or 13 Pro. You'll get the most features, the latest ProMotion display, and much more. It really comes down to budget and what size works best for you. My brother loves the smaller size of the Mini, and so he uses a Mini. Despite maybe wanting to use a Pro, which he could, he chooses the Mini. Pick what works best for you. If you loved the iPhone 4 and 4S and 5 and 5S, the Mini would be perfect for you. It will last throughout the day, but if you value battery most, of course, the Pro Max. It really comes down to which considerations are most important to you, from cameras to PWM to the display and more. So hopefully this helps you decide which works for you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below what you're picking up or what you have currently. I'd love to hear from you there. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.